Happy Friday, Mayor Dan Pope with a weekly video. What a gorgeous day in our part of the world, and I hope you're looking forward to a great weekend. I want to start by looking back to yesterday and talking about our community prayer luncheon yesterday. It was a really neat experience. One of the great things about Lubbock, Texas is that we live in a community where 600 people, business people in general, would come together for a luncheon and devote it to prayer and to efforts to lift up our country and our state and our city. And it was, I'm just glad that we do that. Thanks to the Chamber for organizing it, but they've got a great organizing committee. Dr. Ken Jones was the speaker yesterday, did a great job. It was a high point of my week. Second, I want to make sure that I ask you for your vote. Generally, these Friday videos are topical. We talk about what's going on at City Hall, but I want to make sure that you know how important your support is to me. I think you can count on me for experienced leadership, for a style that's both accountable and open. I think you can expect conservative, common sense decision making. I think you expect openness, good overall communication. This is a good example of that. And finally, I think you can expect the vision. I believe I have the vision to help lead our city forward. I hope you agree with me. I hope if you haven't voted, I hope you'll vote for me tomorrow. The final thing I want to do today is talk a little bit more about the Auditorium and Coliseum. I've had a lot of questions this week, and I've made some notes so I can stay on message and not ramble. But there's been a lot of discussion this week, particularly in social media, and some of it has been personal, and the council's been accused of running a propaganda effort. There are even public suggestions that we're misleading the voters. I want to be really clear about something. The information that you've heard from me on this topic is based on fact. It's the only way I know to operate. Some of you have asked how I handle the heat around this and some of the small-mindedness and some of the criticisms, and I appreciate your concerns, but it goes with the territory, and I can handle it. But let's talk about 3 or 4 of the key topics. First, let's talk about the parking lot lease. There's some suggestions that Texas Tech profits to the tune of $5 million a year because of football parking. First of all, the lease on that parking lot goes back to 1953. It's been updated a couple times. Tech complies with that lease. They follow the letter of the law on the lease. The football parking is sold by the Red Raider Club, and it's not sold for parking. That parking is given to people who buy scholarships. Remember that tax dollars don't pay for athletic scholarships. Those dollars are raised privately. I don't know what they raise. That's not my business. But one of the things they offer to people who buy scholarships, the businesses and the companies that buy scholarships, is the ability to park in that parking lot. It's not some windfall for Texas Tech. Second, Citizens Tower. I'm not really sure the connection between Citizens Tower and the Auditorium and Coliseum, but let me be real clear. Our council inherited the Citizens Tower project. The property had been bought, demolition was underway, and the bonds, most importantly, the bonds had been issued. The funding had been established. We spent a year making sure that the project was sound, and we will deliver that project on time and in the budget. There's been a lot of discussion or questions around the way that Auditorium and Coliseum have been taken care of, and a little bit about the bond funds from 2004. And I talked a little bit about this last week, but I just want to make sure I reiterate. There were $5 million worth of bond funds approved by voters in 2004 to be used on the auditorium. By the time the council got around to taking bids on that work in 2010, that work, instead of costing $5 million, was going to cost as much as $9.2 million. The council didn't have the money to do that work. They chose to spend that money at the Civic Center. They could do that because that same bond election and the same item on the bond had money dedicated to the Civic Center also. Now, I believe the Auditorium and Coliseum could have been maintained better. We can't go back and solve the problems that could have been addressed years ago. In fact, I'm a firm believer in taking care of what we have. In fact, the city staff is probably tired of hearing me say, particularly at budget time, if it's worth having, it's worth taking care of. I believe that's the way we should take care of facilities. I think that's what you should hold our council accountable for. Let me finish with this. Our council was elected to make the best decisions as a group for our city in an effort to move our city forward. After studying the Auditorium and Coliseum, we unanimously voted to ask voters to consider whether or not we should continue to own, operate, and fund the Auditorium and Coliseum. That's what this proposition is about. That's what Proposition A is about. Earlier this week, the video that I did last Friday morning had more than 75,000 views. That's a lot. However, only 9,600 people voted early. We're better than that. You can vote all day tomorrow. You can vote starting at 7 in the morning to 7 at night. You don't have to vote in your precinct. You can vote at any of the voting centers around the county. We'll send that information out to you again today. But please make your voice heard. I'm so very thankful for all of you. I appreciate your support. I appreciate your prayers. I appreciate your good ideas. It's a great day in Lubbock, Texas.